Good evening. This is the April 9th, 2026 Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting. This meeting is being called to order at 7 p.m. I'm Anthony Brozier, Vice Chair of the Planning Board. Chairman Jonathan Cantor is absent this evening, so I'll be chairing for the duration of tonight's proceedings. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A few announcements as we get started. A reminder, please silence your cell phones. And I ask all those who speak this evening to please speak clearly into the microphone. I've already mentioned Jonathan Cantor is absent this evening, and since he's absent, I will appoint alternate member Kevin O'Connell as a voting member for the evening. Jody Lynn Burka is also absent this evening, and since she's absent, I will appoint alternate member Vijay Gopal as a voting member for this evening as well, so we should have a full board of 7. First item on the agenda this evening is a request for extension of approval. 62 Greenwood Drive, land development permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on March 25th, 2026, which is a request for a 6-month extension of the resolution of reapproval and a request for the board to authorize the preparation of a resolution of approval for the new property owners in order for them to obtain the necessary bond that is required in the resolution of reapproval. The board issued the last 6-month extension of the resolution of reapproval on October 2nd, 2025, which is set to expire on May 9th, 2026. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Eric Rogie with Hudson Land Design. Yeah.
All right, let's start off. I mean, I probably explained most of it,
Yeah.
but feel free to add anything else that you may want to share at this point.
I think you covered exactly what I was going to say. The bonding company needs proof that the new owners need a bond. So that's really the main reason we're here. And since we're so close to the expiration date, I figured we'd get an extension at the same time just to be safe.
Yeah, I think the next meeting is May 14th, so
Exactly.
that would be, so I think the question, I guess, from my standpoint would be, and maybe it's for Dominic, as to whether or not a 3-month would be appropriate in this case, or a 6, but 3 may be appropriate if if the second motion we're doing is to have the draft resolution for next month's meeting.
I don't personally have an opinion on the matter. It's whatever the board's preference would be. I see no objection to a 6-month extension, but if the board would be more comfortable with a 3-month extension, I'm just wondering how that would play into so we have to prepare a revised resolution of approval that would indicate the new owners so that they would have that information for their bonding company, and that would be for adoption at the board's May 14th meeting, as you pointed out. Would that resolution then itself be valid for a 6-month period, or, and how these interact? Because they still have to, 3 months, to answer your question, and I'm sorry, I'm dilly-dallying, and I don't mean to do so, but to answer your question, 3 months seems a little short, actually, for them to be able to take this resolution, which they're also going to need. I would recommend a 6-month extension, which will then be encapsulated in the resolution next month.
Okay, and I appreciate
only because it takes time for the bond to be prepared and then approved and put into place. And there's nothing else that's coming down the pike that would change the circumstances of this particular approval. It's not like there's some rezoning or some other issue that would otherwise invalidate the board's prior decisions on the project.
I appreciate the explanation. I don't think you dilly-dallied as you call it. That's
I know I get paid by the word, and so
that's why we asked for your recommendation. So with that, board members, okay with the 6 months?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I hate giving them 6 months, but I'll go along with it.
All right, so We'll do the first motion, which, do I have a motion to approve a 6-month extension of the resolution of the reapproval for 62 Greenwood Drive to October 9th, 2026?
Okay, so moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Kevin seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. And the second motion, which, do I have a motion to draft, or to authorize our consultant to draft a new resolution of approval for the new property owners for 62 Greenwood Drive land development permit for the board's consideration at the May 14th Planning Board meeting?
So moved.
Felix,
Second.
have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries as well. Okay, I think that's all we need to do for this evening, so
Okay.
at this point, we'll see you next month's meeting.
Thanks, see you next month.
Okay, next item, under project reviews, Duchess Manor, site redesign and restoration, site development plan, special use permit, and historic structures and site regulations, certificate of appropriateness, board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on March 25th, 2026, to review a draft negative declaration, a draft certificate of appropriateness, and to consider adopting and authorizing the acting chair to sign said documents. With that, I'll welcome the applicant team if they have anything they would like to start us off with. I know we have your brief letter from March 24th asking the board to consider adopting the items that I had just mentioned. I think the only note I have is that CPL had some outstanding comments in their previous memo, and those were not responded with this month's submittal, but we would want to see those done in a subsequent submittal, but I don't believe that would preclude us from proceeding with the two documents this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Helen Mauch, law firm of Mincer Mauch for HHFT. We were provided by the Planning Board Secretary with copies of the resolutions that you're considering tonight. We don't have any comments with one exception, and which I think the Planning Board Secretary pointed out. One of the comments, there's a reference to an office, a medical office, which would need to be changed. And then there are some very specific references in the neg deck resolution to acreage and disturbance areas. Our comment on that is that perhaps the board wants to consider being a little bit more general, because you will be reviewing the site plan, and if there's even a slight change to impervious, then we've got a resolution that has very specific numbers in it. So while we do not want to delay a vote on this by any means, we would just ask the board to consider that, and I can provide those references more specifically if you're interested.
Okay. Dominic, generally speaking, I mean, I don't think that would necessarily be an issue to, would it be an issue to generalize the acreage in the I mean, because the resolution potentially would follow and...
Yes, so that's absolutely correct. And to council's point, which I believe is well made, is that, you know, if there are changes in the future and you have an inconsistent negative declaration with potential future plans, that could cause a discrepancy, you know, that was perhaps not intended by the board. Your negative declaration, you know, is based on the plans that have been presented to date that also, you know, have a scope of the overall project. It's possible that some aspects of the project will actually come in less than what's been presented to date. And if that's the case, you wouldn't want to set yourself up for a situation where you would also need to revise your negative declaration at that point. So generally speaking, generalizing some elements of dimensional requirements in the negative declaration is certainly permissible, and in fact might be in this particular situation where they still have some process to go through and they're not asking for site development plan approval, would be wise.
Okay. I think when we go through the document, we can take a look at those locations and maybe try to reword it appropriately.
Sure. I'll just note that I think every instance where acreages are mentioned, it says either approximately or plus or minus already. So I think by nature that is generalized.
Understood. I think it might be best if we hear as we go through it and hear any particular suggestions rather than
Okay.
talk about it in the
Yeah.
abstract.
All right, yeah, I think we can do that. Yeah, so I guess the question to Dominic, is there really a preference of which document we do first? Would the certificate of appropriateness be, is there a preference in the
I
order?
think it'd be better for the record to complete the process for the negative declaration. Just to refresh the board, you did adopt the Parts 2 and Parts 3 EAF at last month's meeting.
Correct.
That certainly provides the foundation for the negative declaration. It is the only option for the board at this point, based on the record that you have before it. And the purpose of this particular negative declaration is to provide the reasoned elaboration as to your decision-making up to this point. So that's what it does.
And the groundwork for entertaining the certificate of appropriateness? as well?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so unless there's any other comments?
Would you like me to tell you what we were thinking in terms of the
Can we go?
pages
Yeah,
of the negative declaration, or how would you
Yeah, I
like to do
think
this?
let's have Megan from CPL start by going through the neg deck, and then once we get to those points, we can kind of stop and then figure out the best wording. But I think let's start by going through the draft neg deck.
So, as been stated, you have a neg deck in front of you, a draft. I think the board got this all previous to tonight, so if you have any comments as we go through this, please feel free to let me know. The description of the action, which is the first and half of the second page, just describes what has been proposed up to this point and what is shown on the most recent site plan. The reasons for supporting this determination goes point by point through the items that were marked as small impact on the FEAF Part 2 that was adopted at last month's meeting. Number 1 is the bullet that we had an error where it says the development of a medical office park. And I suggest that we just change that to involving the development as described above. Unless the board would like different language.
Yeah, I think that would work. You have the description elsewhere in the document. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
And if there's any suggestions from board members, feel free to jump in.
Great, so just moving through that paragraph, the board noted that this will have a small impact on land, as it does involve construction on land where the slope exceeds 15%, on land where bedrock is within 5 feet of the surface, and construction that will last approximately 17 months. The applicant has prepared a SWIP, which our engineer has been reviewing, which will ensure that the site is properly stabilized and that no impacts from stormwater are eventualized. I think there was no acreages listed in that section. So moving on to surface water, the application noted that there is going to be increased stormwater runoff from physical disturbance of the land. Additionally, there is an unnamed seasonal stream on the site, and this project location is relatively close to the Hudson River. So all of those are taken into consideration. The application did mention that there would be targeted use of herbicides at the site as well. So that was mentioned. Through here, the application noted that there would be a reduction in impervious surface from approximately 2 acres to approximately 1.88 acres, and perhaps that's a sentence that the board...
Yeah, is that one of the...
That would be one, and I would just note that the sentence before it is accurate and will remain accurate. The proposed action will reduce impervious surface at the site. So we're not suggesting that it would be increased. We're just saying it might be not 1.88 exactly. So that's why we're,
I mean, I think, yeah, I think that would be fine. If for some
We
reason,
have to cite it and strike the
yeah, I mean, if for some reason the plans changed and it was an increase, then obviously we'd have to revisit this document, so a
Correct.
reduction
Right.
is probably, I think that's appropriate.
And that bears repeating. I mean, anything that's changing that would increase, like any aspect of what was previously evaluated, would have to be evaluated on its own. It may not rise to the level of significance, but it would need to be at least looked at.
Okay.
Just to continue through that paragraph in regards to the herbicides specifically, the applicant has committed to following the Lower Hudson Partnership for Regional Invasive Species Management's best management practices when they undertake those efforts. And as we've already discussed, the applicant has prepared a SWIP which will limit impacts from stormwater runoff. Any comments? Okay. The board noted that there would be a small impact on groundwater, and this again was due to the use of herbicides on the site. And as we've just stated, the applicant will be employing best management practices, and there should be no impact. The board noted that there would be a small impact on plants and animals. The site was flagged for the bald eagle, the timber rattlesnake, the Atlantic and short-nosed sturgeon, and the New England cottontail and yellow corydalis. The next sentence, again, has specific acreages, which just notes that almost 85% of the site is proposed to be forested, meadows, or lawn area, and a decrease in the impervious area of the site and a diverse landscaping plan leads us to believe that there would be no significant impacts on plants and animals.
no, we're not asking for that to be changed.
The board noted that there would be a small impact on transportation. There will be approximately 167 vehicles potentially able to park at the site between all of the various parking lots. In addition to the vehicles, a shuttle service is proposed. So traffic will be coming to the site and will be supported by those parking spaces. The applicant has proposed a northbound left turn lane in order to mitigate that traffic on Route 9D. The shuttle service is intended to prevent hikers and sightseers from parking along roads in this area for hiking purposes, so should reduce the traffic impacts. So we don't anticipate any large impacts on transportation. In the EAF Part 2, we noted a small positive impact regarding consistency with community plans. This plan application is relatively consistent with the comprehensive plan update adopted in 2023. Specifically, preservation of the site, preservation of existing trees, a robust landscaping plan, and the proposed shuttle service. Additionally, this is one of the first developed sites on Route 90 as vehicles travel north into the town into the town from the town of Philadelphia from the south.
Okay.
The proposed site would have a small, again, positive impact on consistency with community character as the applicant is proposing to restore and redevelop a historic structure, Duchess Manor. Anything else? Okay. And then the board didn't note any impacts to geological features, flooding air, agricultural resources, aesthetic resources, historic resources, open space and recreation, critical environmental areas, energy, noise, odor, and light, or human health.
And I think just the numbering, there's a little numbering correction there,
Number
but
7.
yeah, very, very minor there. Yeah.
I can
Okay.
fill something in.
Sorry?
I said I can fill something in.
Thank you, Fred.
All right, any comments from the board on the document, draft document?
Can I ask one question, Chair?
Sure.
Right from the very beginning, we talked about a potential crosswalk across 9D. And it's come to light recently that there's going to be a parking area almost across the street from this property. That's some of the information we got, this past
Right.
week. And I don't know, there should be something regarding a crosswalk.
I can address that if you would like.
If you would like, yeah, go ahead.
So, as you know, this plan has evolved over the last year, and I think the board member is correct that one of the versions of the plan early on showed a crosswalk. The plan before you and the plan that we will be presenting to you for site development plan approval does not have a crosswalk. And I think what you might be referring to is a letter attaching an image from the environmental impact statement that was done for the Fjord Trail, which that EIS did study a path across the street from Duchess Manor, but HHFT does not have an intention to construct that. So the EIS grew out of a master plan, and the idea was to study generically a broad master plan. And so that image was taken from that EIS, but the application before you does not have a crosswalk, and like I said, HHFT does not plan to construct that trail portion across from Duchess Manor.
Okay, but another question I have is regarding the sidewalk coming from 9D up to the Manor House, or what we're going to call historical, and I don't believe we have a sidewalk on that. So people are going to, if people walk in, because I was on the comprehensive plan, and we talked about sidewalks.
You're talking about a sidewalk parallel to
No,
9D?
No,
Or-
coming in from 9D. If somebody was walking in from 9D, they'd have to walk on the road. I don't believe we put in a sidewalk.
We do not have a sidewalk.
And I'm concerned with that.
Oh, you would like a
Alright.
sidewalk?
Besides the crosswalk, I was also concerned if somebody is coming, then they're sharing the path to get to the Manor House with traffic. Just,
The idea is to get people off of 9D,
but if
pedestrians.
they are on 9D and they want to come to the Manor House, they're going to have to walk on the road. I don't want to throw too much of a curve on, but this is for the future too.
So I think, so there's a couple of things being discussed here. We have, and I want to bring it back because we have been reviewing the neg deck, and I do want to, bring Megan and Dominic into the conversation here. I think the stuff that Fred's discussing would certainly be something that could be discussed as part of subsequent meeting.
Absolutely.
And if it was deemed that anything added to the plans was substantially going to change the document we may adopt this evening, it could be.
It could be amended if necessary. It's in any likely scenario where you're adding additional amenities, it would be hard to presuppose that would have some kind of negative, or, I hate the way the seeker is written, where having something that has an adverse impact, if you will, to the environment. If anything, it would be an additional mitigation measure based on something that is not, right before the board at this time, because the Part 2 EAF that you adopted already concluded that the project as proposed, does not have a significant impact on the environment. But nonetheless, as part of, this can be deferred to site development plan review.
And that might be something we would ask the applicant to explore, or at least provide input on at a subsequent meeting, and perhaps we can discuss that, But I think, I don't want to mix up Fred's discussion with the document we have before us.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
No,
I think there's,
I think it's certainly a discussion that we should have. I just don't want to
I don't want to hold up the project. I don't want to do anything like that. But I wanna make
No,
sure we're doing it-
and we
we're
should
doing
have that, we
everything
should have that
correct.
discussion. I'm not saying that that shouldn't happen. Sorry, Kevin, were you saying something?
I'm just thinking that we have, there's two separate issues. The first issue, we can amend, or we can add something to the plan that says a sidewalk, a crosswalk was considered, but it is not part of the plan because there will be no parking lot at this particular point on the other side of the street, or something similar. And then the second issue is a new one that we can mitigate with further discussions of future plans.
Okay. I would hesitate actually changing the document at all at this point regarding sidewalks. The point that you make is a valid one. I think that it can be addressed in the future, but I wouldn't say anything regarding sidewalks one way or the other.
Sidewalks, crosswalks is different though a little bit, because that's contingent upon a no parking lot going on the other side.
Correct, but I think the applicant hears you and can provide an update on this and justification for whatever position that they're taking in the future, but it just hasn't been part of their plan set up till now.
Okay, so any other comments from board members on the draft neg deck?
No.
Okay, so
Mr. Vice Chair, I do have one more note on the resolution, if I may.
on the draft neg deck.
Yes. On the top of page 2, the second paragraph, the last sentence there, again, has a lot of details. There is plus or minus in front of them, plus or minus 6.1 acres of disturbance, plus or minus 1.88 acres impervious, and the remaining 10.38 acres of pervious. If we could just put approximately, and also for the 10.38 plus or minus, just to make it consistent, because again, recognizing that during site plan review, and for everyone's benefit, to not have to amend a negative declaration.
I think the addition of approximately with the plus or minus would be fine to go with those numbers.
Is that on both the 6.10 and the?
And the 1.8.
And the
And the
10.38.
And the 10.38, yeah.
And the 15% is still okay? And the
Approximately.
15% is still okay?
Approximately,
That says approximately.
yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Was that,
That's
Oh, okay.
that's all I have, unless you have something for me.
I don't believe so, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the board if there is a motion to adopt the negative declaration for Duchess Manor site redesign and restoration, site development plan, special use permit and historic structures, and site regulations, and to authorize the chair to sign.
As adopted?
As
amended.
As amended this evening.
So moved.
Fred moves it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, is that VJ? VJ second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries 7-0. So we'll move to the second document for this evening, which is the Certificate of Appropriateness, which I believe Dominic Cordisco has drafted for us.
Yes, that's correct. You should have in front of you draft number 3. And bear in mind that the most important part of this is, the fact that the board has jurisdiction over modifications to certain historic structures, which is why this particular certificate is required. It's been part of their application. And the board, now that you've adopted a negative declaration and concluded the seeker process, you're in a procedural position where you can consider granting the certificate of appropriateness for the modifications to Duchess Manor. Bear in mind, however, that this is not for the site plan elements. So this is not for the development that is being considered by the board. It is only for the modifications to Duchess Manor that they can do regardless of whether or not they are proceeding with the overall site development plan. This is work that they're prepared to do and want to, and my understanding is that the reason that they're asking for it now is they want to get underway with this particular aspects of this, and this work can happen, as I said, regardless of whether or not the overall improvements to the site are ever constructed, whether or not the fjord trail is ever constructed or completed. These are things that are separate, but nonetheless have been considered as overall part of the approvals that they've been requesting. So without going into great detail, unless you have any questions, the resolution itself sets this forth. It's a certificate of appropriateness, and includes all of the procedural steps that have been taken to date. The most important part starts on page 3 of 4, where you are making certain findings. In particular, you're finding that the activity is consistent with the policy of the town's zoning code as it relates to certificates of appropriateness, to protect the continued use and enjoyment of historic structures within the town of Fishkill, that the overall proposed activity is compatible with public health and welfare, and that the activity retains the historic character and integrity of the Duchess Manor historic structure. The structure itself is what we're talking about here. There are certain conditions associated with this. Obviously that the work has to be done in accordance with the plans as it relates to this particular certificate. And as I mentioned, we added in here specifically to make sure that the certificate does not authorize any construction of the improvements shown on the site development plan, which cannot be constructed unless and until the planning board approves the site development plan. This certificate also authorizes the building inspector to act on its behalf to conduct periodic inspections while the work is ongoing. After the work is completed, they have to submit as-built drawings to the town. And the town also reserves the right to rescind or otherwise withdraw the certificate in the event that the applicant fails to construct or complete the work required in accordance with the approved plans. And notice of any change of ownership is also required to be filed with the zoning administrator within 30 days of any transfer. That's really the conditions. I'd like to focus the board on those rather than going through all the whereas clauses.
I believe the only thing we would need to add is the date, today's date.
Today's date for the adoption of the negative declaration. That would be on page 2, I think on the second full whereas clause.
Dominic, can I ask you a question? Does that
please.
allow them to now start tearing down the old parts?
Yeah, I defer to Helen as to what their actual intention is. But
I know that's what their goal was, but I want to know if that's...
I think okay, go ahead.
Yes. Because with an old structure, you need to be able to see what lies beneath sometimes in order to firm up the architectural drawings. So we would be looking to take away the additions.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? All right. So with that, I will ask if there is a motion to adopt the certificate of appropriateness for Duchess Manor, site redesign and restoration, site development plan, special use permit and historic structures, and site regulations, and to authorize the chair to sign.
So moved.
Was that Kevin? Kevin moved it. Do I have a second?
I'll do it.
All right.
Who else wants to? I'll do it.
Fred, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
If I may, Mr. Brozier, I wanted to thank Debbie in particular. This was the first time that I had actually drafted a certificate of appropriateness. It doesn't come up that often. And in the years that I've had the pleasure of representing the board, we always get good feedback from Debbie in particular in terms of her comments and suggestions on this. So this was
I think you should frame it.
Yeah, well, I do have some things framed, only if she signs it. But no, I did want to call you out, Debbie, for that because It's always been very helpful, and in this one, you know, we were creating something that we hadn't created before.
Yeah, Debbie doesn't get enough recognition for all she does for our board, so thank you. Okay, so at this point, I don't believe there's any further actions that this board would make this evening. I believe the next step is for the applicant to go back to the town board for the rezoning.
Perhaps. But we will be coming back to this board with a site plan for your consideration and approval. And I would also like to thank Debbie and staff and council and the board. We're not done yet, but tonight is a milestone, and we will, I think, see you next month. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Okay, next item on the agenda for this evening under project reviews is Willow Lake Partners Group LLC, Site Development Plan, Special Use Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on March 24th, 2026. A draft full EAF, Full Environmental Assessment Form Part 2, a draft full EAF Part 3, and to consider adopting and authorizing the chair to sign said documents. Good evening.
Good evening. Jennifer Van Tile from Cuddy and Fader, and with me is Zach Can. You remember Josh Wood? And the rest of the Willow Lake team is with me too this evening. We don't have a formal presentation for you this evening because we did not submit anything, any new information to the board. What we did submit was a compilation of parts of the record that are critical to the decisions that the board will be making that we thought would be helpful for you to have before you this evening. So we recognize that tonight is the time for the board to do discussions with the assistance of its consultants, but we'll be here this evening if there are any questions that you would ask of us.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a memo from MJ Engineering dated April 1st, 2026, so we'll start there. We'll start with Anisha.
Perfect.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we have classified this action as a type 1 action, September 11, 2025. We have received comments from the Village of Fishkill, Dutchess County Planning Department, DOH, DEC, and Parks. We have prepared a draft FEAF parts 2, and 3 for the board's review tonight, and I will proceed to going through that as soon as we are ready.
All right. I did have a few comments on my end. I know that we had talked about dam inspection report. I believe that was requested at last month's meeting. I don't believe that was part of any documents that we had seen yet, and then the cut fill analysis we had asked for last month. I don't think that necessarily precludes us from having the discussion on the documents before us this evening, but I did want to note that those were two things that I had seen as not having been provided at this point that were, at least on my radar, as things we would want to see in a subsequent submittal.
Understood. Just to correct the record, we did provide the cut fill analysis back in October.
Oh, okay.
And we referenced that in the documents.
Okay.
And as with regards to the dam inspection, it was performed, and we'll be taking some minor corrective action to keep it operational.
Right. I remember you saying it was done, just didn't have the documentation.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Any other questions from the planning board before we go into our EAF Part 2 and Part 3 documents? Dominic, anything before?
No, sir.
All right. So with that, Anisha, please walk us through the draft EAF Part 2.
Yes, so we have prepared a draft FEAF parts 2 and 3, as I mentioned earlier. The first area of consideration is the impacts on land. We have identified that as yes, there might be some potential impacts, ranging from small to no impact. The areas of small impact include the fact that you're going, the operation will extend beyond a year. You have on your FEAF parts 1 and it will be 24 months. So that would be a small impact. The second area of small impact is that there might be potential physical disturbance, which could result in some erosion of some sort. That also is a small impact.
On impact on land, item C says the proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of the existing ground surface. I know there's exposed bedrock at the front of the site. I know that's where the fill is going, but maybe that's something that should be noted.
So the reason for it being no impact, I'm happy to change it to small impact, but the reasoning behind that was because there was no construction on.
It's not being removed, it's
Yes.
being
it's
placed
built
on.
Right, so if you'd like, I could put small impact, but I believe that would be no impact.
No, I think I'm okay with how it is, but if board members,
Well, let me, what, as they're starting to do this, and they have to move some of that bed, the rock, I'm just curious, because that whole area is really rocky. I mean, I'd hate to dig a hole with my shovel.
It is. So there's likely going to be some rock encountered in certain areas where we're building, retaining walls and things like that. But what we're doing is we know how the board feels and the town feels about blasting. So we're removing that from the table of options. So what we would have to do is other types of mechanical, minor breakage in those areas, all of which has been documented in the different analyses we provide.
Well, I understand that,
might
but
be-
for this, should it be,
then maybe we should
it
make
should
it.
be
small.
noted.
We should make it a small
I
impact
mean,
then.
you do have bedrock.
We do.
Yeah, I think we should just make it a small
So since
impact.
there will be some disturbance of bedrock, I will say there should be a small impact noted on the FEAF.
We have no problem with that.
And then under other impacts, this project's going to require a significant amount of fill imported near the entrance of the site to construct the parking lots and the retaining walls. And as we mentioned last month, I believe, on the figures, it's going to range from 0 to 22 feet for the retaining wall. So I mentioned the cut fill analysis. I didn't have the exact numbers, but I think the height of fill in those particular spots would be something that we would want to document in here as a small impact.
The second area of consideration is for geological features that we identified as no impact. Third, we have surface water that we identified as potential impacts, ranging from no impact to small impact. The areas of small impact are for soil erosion from receiving water bodies and also for impacts to water quality for downstream resources.
Is there anything being done regarding modification of the lake?
There is not.
Okay.
Anisha, on...
I believe you said that,
Sorry.
but I just,
No problem.
Sorry about that, Fred. On other impacts, you had the note about the jurisdiction, the EC. Is that just a note there? Because nothing was checked on either. Is that just a notation, or is that suggesting?
It's just a notation as it pertains to the downstream and potential receiving water bodies.
So is that something that should just be checked off, no or small impact?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. It's the same thing on the one above, right? H in number 1.
Yes, that also should be no or small impact.
Yep. Good catch.
The applicant has provided a SWIP. The SWIP is showing that there will be net zero runoff. That is part of the comments for surface water and potential impacts. Fourth, we have impacts to groundwater. We have identified that as yes, potential impacts ranging from no impact to small impact. The only area of small impact is that we have received, the area has shallow bedrock, and we have received a letter dated July 2025 that states that there will be no significant impacts.
can you go back up to the one before I, on number 3? Should something be checked? You have a writing on it?
Please check.
3I,
Yeah.
Go down one, going down one more.
Which one? Oh,
I
no,
check.
yeah, we already said.
Yeah.
Other impact?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you didn't accept? You did, sir?
Yeah. I think so.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay.
no, that's good. Number 5, we have impacts to flooding. That we identified as yes, ranging from no impact to small impact. The areas of small impact include the modifications to the existing drainage patterns, and also the impacts of potential contribution to flooding. Those both are identified as small impacts.
And then I believe G on that one
Yeah, it's-
Yes.
needs to be checked at the end there for no or small impact.
For impacts on air, we have identified that as no impact. For impacts on plants and animals, we identified that as potential impacts ranging from no impact to small impact. We have received a biodiversity study dated July 2025 that has confirmed that there is no occupancy of any listed or threatened or endangered species on the site.
Now, which one is intended to be the small
Copy J.
J?
Yes.
Okay.
So it wasn't one of the options underneath, but I figured we just add it because it's part of the consideration for the,
I was only I was asking because some of the other ones that had small impact, you
Yeah.
had the text below it.
Number 8, impacts to agricultural resources. We identified that as no impact. Number 9, impacts to aesthetic resources. We identified that as yes. We have ranging from no to small impacts. The areas of small impact include the obstruction or elimination of significant screening. The applicant is proposing tree removal. However, to mitigate that, they also have proposed tree planting and buffering. The second area of small impact would be visibility from publicly accessible vantage points. The third area of small impact would be viewers might be engaged in seeing some of the construction from recreational areas or routine travel paths. That is also an area of small impact. However, to mitigate this, the applicant has provided visual impact analysis and also tree planting and that has shown to mitigate these potential impacts. Number 10 is impact on archaeological resources. We identified that as yes, ranging from no impact to small impact. The area of small impact is the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within a substantially contiguous to an archaeological site listed on SHPO website. We have received a letter from SHPO stating no archaeological sites were identified with this investigation. Number 11 is impacts on open space and recreation. We identified that as no impact. Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas, no impact. Number 13, impacts on transportation. We identified that as yes. Impacts are no impact to small impact. The applicant has provided a traffic study, and that has shown to have no significant impacts on traffic and circulation. This is also mitigated by the applicant proposing to use the valet service. That should also result in mitigating against any potential traffic and circulation issues.
That's F?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, go ahead.
Yeah, that, number 1 should be checked.
Yeah.
And number 2, this is the traffic study that determined that there was no impact from an overall traffic point of view, but we had some concerns regarding at very, very busy points like
Weddings or gatherings.
weddings, end of weekends and that kind of thing.
There would be like a burst.
Right, that
Small-
would be, exactly, like a burst of traffic. So I just didn't know whether that, we should note that somewhere. Or-
So that I believe we can note under E, and I'll state that during certain hours, there might be a difference in the circulation patterns, but I do not anticipate that it would be significant.
Yeah, if you like, I can just reiterate the latest iteration of the traffic impact study. I think it's actually a subsequent date to what's listed in that note, so we can maybe add that date to there for completeness sake. But we did initially submit a traffic study, as we traditionally would, analyzing the peak hours of the adjacent roadways, since that's when traffic in totality is at its highest. But we heard this feedback at some of the prior meetings. We went out and did additional analysis for both the peak hour of people entering, a peak event at full occupancy, and the peak hour leaving an event at full occupancy, determining the same conclusion that there's no material impact to the adjacent roads. So we have analyzed that
But
specifically.
that's
as well.
basically getting on and off 9.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. And what we're sort of concerned about
Right.
is when the party lets out.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of a use like this is it doesn't overlap its peak activity with the roads, so there's lots of capacity in the roadway network at that time. So the results are in that latest, I believe it was December 2025 report.
Yeah, I don't think we're necessarily contradicting the
No,
study,
we're not-
but just
that's-
saying that
Where your
there will
study is not a
be-
problem. It's,
that there will be times where, you know,
The road's
People
very
will
windy.
come to the
and,
site.
You know, it's not lit at night, and it's difficult for those familiar with it to sometimes.
yeah,
navigate.
I also had a note that, you know, this project has the potential to introduce visitors who are unfamiliar with the area.
Right.
And that's not really something that could be quantified or qualified, I don't think, necessarily in a traffic study. And so that's, I think I'm still suggesting a small impact, but I think some explanation to that extent, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, is kind of where,
I feel
that's where I'm.
exactly the same way. Somehow we need to articulate that we've considered that.
So I believe I can, on item number 13E, we can call that one a small impact. And under F, we can have the updated date for the traffic study be incorporated, as well as stating that there might be some potential impacts from visitors that are unfamiliar with this road network. But do you believe those are both small impacts?
Right.
I would be okay with small, yeah.
Yeah.
they should be lucky it happens every night. 500 cars.
Impacts on energy, we identify that as no impact. Impacts on noise, odor, and light, we identify that as yes, potential impact, ranging from areas of small impact to no impact. The areas of small impact includes the noise being above the established noise levels, and also item number E, which states that the proposed action may result in lighting, creating sky glow brighter than the existing area conditions. Those are both areas of potential small impact.
Point of information, in this area, we at some point discussed the specific traffic associated and lights associated with construction vehicles, vehicles that bring in fill, that kind of thing. Did we, and I don't remember whether we agreed that those kinds of construction should not take place after hours or during the evening, when those lights might be significant on the, have a significant impact on neighbors?
I think that's something that would potentially be a condition, right, of an approval, not necessarily.
It would be, and I, you know, I don't recall offhand what the town code provisions are regarding that, but there certainly are limitations as to when construction can occur in the town code. They changed based
Okay.
on whatever town I happen to be sitting in at the moment, but I can certainly look at that and give you an answer.
Fishkill.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. You know, my brain is like a sieve. So.
The applicant has provided a noise study dated October 21, 2025, that shows that they have provided measures to mitigate any noise and light impacts to the best of their abilities. Number 16 is impacts on human health, that we identified as no impact. Number 17, consistency with community plans. We believe this is consistent with the community plans. The applicant is not seeking a zone change or use variance. It's permitted through special use. Number 18.
Sorry. I wanted to stop on 17, consistency with community plans. I think, A, the land use components may be different from or in sharp contrast to current surrounding land use patterns. At a minimum, should be checked off as small. The use of the land as a resort, restaurant, and wedding venue are in contrast to the single-family homes in the area.
So I believe that comes under community character. The consistency with the plans, I believe, speaks more about if it's consistent with the zoning. But I'd be happy to put that as a potential small impact.
I think for just the way A is written, the land use component, at least for me, I think small would be appropriate there, but I'm open to what other board members might think there.
Where would we put it?
Where would it,
Where would
Anisha,
we
where
put
would
it
it
in
fit?
18?
Yeah, where would you have it fit on, under 18, if you don't
I
mind
think
me
under
asking?
18, it could be other impacts, or E, or F. But I believe that would be other impacts. I believe number 17 is speaking more so about if the application is in contrast to the comprehensive plan, or if it's in contrast to the zoning, so it's not permitted by right. I believe that's where 17 comes in. Whereas 18, I believe, speaks more about beyond the zoning and more so how we believe it is consistent with the visuals of the neighborhood or community character.
What is the zoning in this particular area?
The zoning is,
A
in this
and
area is,
R40 and
it's a split zone between R40 and R4A.
So is there a zoning variance required? No.
There are no variances required.
Okay.
There are no use variances required.
Yes, there are no use variances required.
Yeah, I guess the word components, right? You know, there's a restaurant, there's a wedding venue, that's kind of the word that was on 17A that was getting me to believe that that was small.
There's a waterfall.
There it is.
We have no issue if 17A is marked as a small impact.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Number 18 is consistency with community character. This we identified as yes. For this particular one, we had no impacts, and then we had other being small impact. We believe that this is in somewhat contrast to the existing community character. Even though it might be complementary, it might be in contrast to what is existing now. So we would like to identify item G as small impact.
Okay. All right, so any other comments from board members on any of the EAF Part 2 items?
No, sir.
Okay. Any comments from our consultants before we proceed?
No, sir.
Okay, so if there are no further comments, do I have a motion to adopt the EAF Parts 2?
Do we want to look at part 3 and do them both?
We can do that.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Felix?
Part 3?
Part 3? Yeah,
Let's just do part 3, then we'll just finish it.
sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine,
absolutely.
yeah.
We have also prepared Part 3 of the FEAF. With the Part 3, the action is a Type 1 action. We have provided, the applicant has provided Part 1, we have provided Parts 2, and this is Part 3. Overall, the project is designed to be consistent as best as possible with the community character by preserving natural features and maintaining open space and restoring the site's historical and recreational use. There are some potential visual and noise impacts that are being mitigated through buffering, building placement, and building materials and lighting standards. While the applicant is proposing 80 units for development, and there could be some potential impacts to traffic, analysis has shown that those impacts are minor and can be mitigated through design measures and functional measures such as the valet parking. Wetland jurisdiction has been confirmed on the site. New York State DEC studies have indicated that there is no significant impacts to groundwater, runoff, or endangered species. The applicant has provided a SWIP that shows net zero runoff, and the applicant has also provided a tree planting plan of some sort that shows that there's going to be a net zero loss in trees.
And I think on page 2, you have Town of Ramapo Planning Board listed, and then I guess would John Cantor would be replaced. I'd be the one signing this,
He can't sign for a while, so we're going to need to sign
so that we
within
should
5
replace
days.
John Cantor's name on the second page with my name.
Perfect. I will have the corrections made and a new version or an amended version of these documents provided to the town.
You can just send it right to me.
Perfect.
Thank you, Anisha.
Okay, any further comments from board members? Okay. so we'll do this in one shot. If there are no further comments, do I have a motion to adopt the EAF Parts 2 and 3 for Willow Lake Site Development Plan, Special Use Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit, and to authorize the chair to sign? As amended this evening. I'm new to this, guys. You gotta work with me.
We're here to support.
There you go.
Felix has got you.
As amended, and authorize the chair to sign. You got me.
So moved.
All right. Felix moves it. Kevin seconds. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? The motion carries. And I believe one other motion that this board should entertain this evening would be the drafting of a negative declaration for
Correct.
next month's meeting. So I'll ask the board if I have a motion to authorize our consultants to draft a negative declaration for Willow Lake Site Development Plan, Special Use Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit for the board's consideration at the May Planning Board meeting.
So moved.
Felix moves it. Do I have a second?
Fred does.
Fred does. There you go. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain?
You're going to be ready in May?
Motion carries.
Of course.
Okay. I believe that's all we have on our side. I don't know if the applicant team has anything else for this evening.
No, that was all we have. Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you in May.
I would also like to thank Debbie, just because. Smart man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Good night. Final item on our agenda this evening is under project reviews. It is Fishkill Commerce Center Site Development Plan, Floodplain Development Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on March 25th, 2026. Good evening.
Good evening. So I'll get our thanks to Debbie out of the way at the beginning of our presentation.
All right.
No, but seriously, she does
It's Debbie
phenomenal work.
Appreciation Night.
Yes, it is. For the record, Jennifer Gray from Keen & Bean on behalf of the applicant tonight. We were last before you in June of last year. So I'm sure you're curious as to what the team has been up to. So tonight is intended to be sort of a status update and a check-in with the board to solicit your feedback on what we believe is a major positive change that we've been able to secure for the project. The team has listened carefully to your feedback and the feedback of your consultants and worked very hard to come up with a solution to completely eliminate the proposed on-site septic, which was proposed on the northern end of the property. So that is something that we understand, the board has obviously encouraged us to continue to explore that throughout the course of your review of this project. The applicant obviously took that to heart and has been working hard to achieve that. So in a few moments, I'm going to turn it over to Owen Harder from McFarland Johnson, who has been instrumental in sort of ushering that forward and coordinating with New York State DOT, with Dutchess County Department of Health, with Village of Fishkill, and he'll explain in much more technical detail than I ever could exactly what it is that is proposed. But in layman's terms, what we will be doing is installing a trenchless, horizontally, directionally drilled force main. It'll extend about 2,500 linear feet from the northern end. You can see a photo of it up there on the screen. It'll extend from the northern end of the site underneath Interstate 84 to the nearest manhole on the opposite side of 84. We do have, as I mentioned, we've been working with DOT. They have confirmed that the concept, alignment, and the construction methodology that's being proposed is acceptable in their viewpoint to advance it to permitting. So we've gotten that far with DOT. This change significantly has resulted in a decrease in the disturbance area of about 10,000 square feet, in addition to about 1,000 square feet less of wetland buffer impact. So we're really pleased with the outcome of all the work that's occurred since June, and do want to solicit your feedback. We received MJ Engineering's comments, and we can definitely provide a response to each of those comments. We believe the record already contains a lot of that information, and we're happy to bring it forward. We know there's a lot. Owen actually has with him tonight the binder of the environmental assessment report, if you could just hold it up, of all the material that's been submitted to date. So it's a lot. We can bring some of that forward in response to the comments for the next meeting. Obviously, what stood out to us in MJ's memo was the recommendation for a DEIS. I know that had been discussed previously at meetings. We are hopeful that with this change, that will alter the board's viewpoint on some of those potential impact areas. So we are very much interested in receiving the board's sort of candid, unfiltered feedback tonight on this proposed change and any other concerns that you may still have with the project, so that we can make some informed decisions going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Owen to go through in a little bit more detail what it is that we're proposing. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Owen Harder with McFarland Johnson Engineering. So building off of what Jennifer said, she did a very good job at explaining it, but over the past few months, we worked in deep coordination with the Dutchess County Department of Health, the DOT, the Village of Fishkill, and the Town of Fishkill Sewer Operator, which is Camo Pollution Control, to try to figure out a solution to get this wastewater to the village. So we put together this force main alignment through horizontal directional drilling. So we would have a launch pit, I guess I can point it out on the plan. We'd have a launch pit where they'd set up a big machine to push a kind of about a 4-inch pipe under the wetland, and then I'd have another series of receiving and pushing on the other side of the wetland, which is still on our property, and go directly under the on-ramps and off-ramps to I-84, all the way to the right-of-way, right in the town-village boundary over here. And the reason we have to go in this diagonal kind of fashion is because that's the only area where there's public receiving on that side. So even if we were to go to the Westgate Business Plaza, which is directly across I-84, that's still all private. So this was the preferred and only alternative that we could find going forward here. So we'll be eliminating the 10,000 square foot septic tank, which was located right here where my cursor is, in pushing about 3,900 gallons per day of wastewater to the village system. This allows us to install the pipe, as Jennifer said, in a trenchless manner, so we won't be impacting any wetland buffer, or DOT right-of-way within that whole alignment. Another main concern that was raised in the MJ Engineering comments, and I just want to point out, so a full stormwater pollution prevention plan was originally submitted to I believe at the time it was CHA Engineering who was doing the review about a year and a half ago. So that was submitted and determined to be kind of complete at that point, and then when it transitioned to MJ Engineering, some more comments flared up, and we're working through those, and we're open to work through them as we kind of go through all the stormwater matters. So those were the two big points that we saw in the MJ Engineering comment letter that we received last week. So if you have any other technical comments on this alignment or any other stormwater comments, we're here to answer it.
What kind of pump? Do you have to pump it?
We do. So we'll have our private pump station, which will be located near the warehouse building, to push it about half a mile to the village.
So you're going to have a tank coming in and then pushing from a tank?
Yeah, it's like a manhole. It's like a little lift station. It's not too big, just because the flow is so small from our development. But it's just a private line, so it'd be just like a manhole. You wouldn't notice it.
What is the elevation change to?
I believe it's about equal all in all. Try to zoom in here, but the big hump is the embankment of I-84, so we'd have to push it from our property under that, which is kind of right here where my cursor is. and we have to keep that pretty deep because there's some other utilities and concrete work underneath kind of the on-ramps and off-ramps of I-84 there.
And so you have to cross that and also cross Route 9, you're saying?
That's right, that's right. So we'd have a receiving pit, so just, that's where they'd receive the pushed line right off of the right-of-way of US 9, up right near the village municipal boundary up here.
So it's not a direct pipe with a pitch. It is contoured over depending on what's above it.
Yeah, so when they install it, there'll be a survey crew up in the, kind of like parked on the shoulders, probably up here, kind of tracing where that is underground, and they can control the elevation and the different horizontal and vertical bends of the whole thing as it goes, which is fascinating stuff. And it's a huge run to push, so it's a lot of work, but happens for projects like this.
Yeah.
Need to push it that far.
You mentioned coordination with some of the agencies. I didn't hear DEC. Is there any discussion with, I know we're going under wetlands, but obviously there is.
Yes, so we will be coordinating with the DEC. They don't, when you bore under wetlands, for state wetlands, you don't need a permit for that from the state. But I think you do need, we'll be pursuing a nationwide permit for boring work, but there'll be no surface disturbance, so we'll have to kind of navigate that process going forward. DOT was kind of the big hurdle for allowing them to have a kind of a diagonal alignment through the right-of-way. Usually they prefer perpendicular alignments, but working with them and giving them the feedback that there's not too many other alternatives was kind of the route that we chose.
And I saw that you had attached, I believe it was email comments from Jason Brenner at the DOT.
We did, yeah. Yep.
With some technical comments in
Right.
support of furthering this approach.
Right. More or less feasibility. We submitted the feasibility, had some discussions with him and his team, kind of to get feedback, and they were kind of giving us the green light to go forward with full design and permitting. So that's what was submitted. His correspondence there.
Who oversees it?
Sorry?
Who oversees it since you're going through?
It will be federal and state permitting to go through under the interstate, since it's a interstate highway.
So each of them have to sign off on it too?
Yeah. Sorry, who? What'd you say?
Each of them have to sign off on it?
Federal, state.
Federal and state.
Federal, state, and town and village?
The village will, for the connection, and we've been working closely with Paul DeForno over at the village water and wastewater treatment facility. So it'll mostly be the state DOT, the federal highway, and
well, the pump is going to be on Fishkill property.
That's right.
Would that be required?
We'll work with the county, but since it's all a private line going directly to the village, the town doesn't really have much.
Well, the building is going to be on the town property.
Right. But the sewer connection will be through the village, a private connection. And it's very similar to what's going on, I think the Home Depot property and the Westgate building plaza directly across I-84. They're all private utility connections to the village system, so there's a agreement there.
This will just be a different one.
Right.
A different one that goes under I-84.
Right, yeah. I know there's another project kind of doing the same thing, and we've been coordinating with their engineer in the early stages to kind of get some opinion on the matter.
That's our medical group.
Right.
This is also over top of the aquifer protection area, right?
That's right.
So there may be some disturbances I'm very pleased, just from my own personal perspective, and the progress that you guys have made, because I think that's going to have a significant positive impact on not disturbing the aquifer. But now I'm concerned about other potential impacts to the aquifer, other than impervious runoffs into the nearby stream and degradation of the streams. But I just want to be sure that the aquifer is not disturbed by the construction of that.
Sure. Yeah, and we'll consult closely with our geotechnical engineer to make sure we're doing everything correctly. The depth under the wetland's still only about 5 to 6 feet, so it's no more than a normal utility trench if it were installed via trench.
Yeah.
The deepest part is under the embankment, which is mostly fill, so that we wouldn't be concerned about too much groundwater there. But yeah, we will be working closely with the geotech under the wetland area.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and one that I had as well. It's, obviously there were a lot of impacts with the previous plan. There's a whole bunch of new ones created by this. I think, obviously with the subsequent submittal, this is the first step in kind of getting the temperature of the board on the plan, but obviously seeing something more detailed, a full detailed plan set, and you've already done an environmental narrative, but updating that to reflect this would obviously help aid us in down the road considering, an EAF document, what the impacts would be, what the extent of those would be. So obviously those would be things that we would be looking for, with a subsequent submittal, which I'm sure you guys are already, chomping at the bit or probably started working on. So if there are any other comments from the board, let's take those, and then we can go to MJ Engineering in their memo.
I'm good.
Okay, so go to you, Dennis.
Yeah, sure.
For the MJ
We have
memo.
our memo that's dated April 1st. I'm starting on page 4. This is where the site stuff comes in. Basically, everything that the applicant had discussed is basically outlined in our memo. We note that there, it has been changed to a directional drill instead of the on-site system. We did note that they would have to get the appropriate permits from the DOT and for crossing the interstate and Route 9. Again, we had noted that there was, a similar project that's going on that was approved, connecting in a similar manner to the same manhole, just to coordinate with that, which it sounds like that has been taken place and will continue to go in place, and then any improvements related to the on-site pump station would have to be reviewed and approved by the Board of Health. I don't know, do you want to, there's, the other comments that are on here are related to the EAF. I don't know if you want to go through those now, or we can just, I don't know if there's any really.
Yeah, I think,
So
absolutely.
Before I go through the EAF comments, the two things I want to point out is that the applicant needs to provide a narrative as it pertains to aquifer protection overlay and how you're compliant with that, and also the freshwater wetlands permit narrative.
Sure, yeah, we have that information in the big volume of material. We're happy to submit that again for you, absolutely. Can I ask one question about one of the EAF comments?
Sure.
With respect to the no-effect letter from SHPO, we do have one of those that was submitted. Are you requesting an updated version that accommodates
No.
this plan change, or?
Well, yes, we want one that is reflective of this plan.
Yeah.
So we would need an updated letter if SHPO has not seen this plan.
Correct.
So I'm just going to walk through the comments that we had as it
Sure.
pertains to the EAF, and then you can jump in at any time.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of, we have drafted or somewhat drafted parts 2 of the FEAF, and our initial comments range from the impacts on aesthetic resources. We would like you to provide some visual impact analysis. You're going from basically no development to a warehouse, so just provide us with some visual impact analysis of vantage points and like what it looks like from different residential or public areas. The second area of concern is the impacts on land, the potential impacts on traffic also. We would like some kind of a traffic study, a traffic and circulation study. Also, the potential inconsistency with the community plans and community character. If you could provide some narrative of some sort to state how this project is consistent with the community, that would be helpful. Also, the major one for us is the impact on surface and groundwater. I know you covered that in your initial presentation, but just to go through and provide us some more detail as to how you're mitigating against those potential impacts. The application or the project is within the 100 and 500-year floodplains, so you'll also need to provide us with some narrative as to how that works, and start the process of obtaining those required permits from DEC. A SWIP, you mentioned the SWIP has been provided. I'm not sure if we have seen that SWIP. We have? Okay.
Yes.
So if an updated SWIP needs to be provided, just provide us with the updated SWIP if that's necessary. And that would be the major comments that we had. The application is within 500 miles of federal or state scenic area, which is the Highland State Park Preserve. The applicant needs to provide some kind of narrative as to how that is being impacted.
Sure.
The scope of work also seems to be extensive as compared to what is existing now. So if the applicant can provide us with like a narrative of some sort stating just how this scope of work would not require a DES, and whatever other environmental studies you can provide to show that you're mitigating against any potential impacts would be helpful.
Just a quick question. The report that we we did last year with the environmental, not the environmental, but the hydro engineer that did the report on the aquifer, is that part of the documentation that you guys consider? Is that in your files?
Yes.
And what happens to the recommendations? Because he had some recommendations.
So
But he's got to get the next submittal when they officially submit it, we'll go to.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that, but I think essentially the next submittal made by the applicant, we would also refer to our town hydrogeologist, Paul Rubin.
Hydrogeologist, thank you very much.
Sorry, I didn't. We would refer that to him. He reviewed the previous submittal. This is obviously a different one. We would make that referral just the same, request his input, request he attend the next meeting that the applicant appears to speak to his, to whatever memo or document he provides in response. So that would be something we would look to do. Obviously, there are new impacts, there are different changes, so we would certainly do that. But yeah, definitely good comment there. Anisha, was there anything else?
That's pretty much all we had. Our letter is very comprehensive. If you could just respond to each of the comments, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I think at this point, the next step would be to see a detailed submittal, response to comments, something that can be referred to Paul Rubin, our hydrogeologist, get another detailed review of this new plan. And before the board considers, I know there was a comment in here about a DEIS being prepared. I think the board needs to see a detailed plan set submittal and really take a look at what that entails before we consider entertaining something to that extent. So I think that would be the next step, would be to have a detailed submittal from the applicant.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and we appreciate the comment in the MJ Engineering memo too, inviting the submission of that narrative. We've obviously been updating that large volume document over the course of our submittals, but I think what we'll try to do is sort of reduce that and make it a little bit more digestible, highlighting each of the reports that we've previously submitted with any updates based on this current proposal, so that you have that in a very succinct, digestible.
Yeah, you haven't had the opportunity to do that with this new plan.
Yeah,
so.
We wanted to come to you, give you the update, and really get your candid feedback on it, because, if this was something that was a non-starter for the board for whatever reason, we wanted to know that up front before we, invest additional time and expense in pursuing this particular option. So to that point, we appreciate the feedback that you've provided. If there's any other feedback that you have about this or any other aspect of the project, we're here. Our ears are open. We're trying to be as responsive as we can to your comments.
Yeah, I think the consensus here is, let's see something with more detail, but this is a good start.
Great.
Okay, I guess question maybe for Dominic, does the board need to make a motion to refer the submittal to Paul Rubin, the town hydrogeologist, or he's already part of the process, so,
That's correct.
okay, so then we don't need to take any action this evening.
You do
so-
not.
Okay.
Okay,
I
thank
think-
you.
I think
Thank
we're
you
all
very
set.
much. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that is maybe a record. The end of our agenda this evening. Is there any other discussion items from board members?
I thought Dominic had one.
The next meeting for the planning board is Thursday, May 14th. The submission deadline is Wednesday, April 29th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Definitely.
All right, I heard a few. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained?
Okay. You might note that, please.
For the record, the motion carries 7-0. Good evening, everybody.